You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Unlock Your Life. Guys, I'm not alone today. I've got a guest for you, Zach Lemaster. He's the founder and CEO of Rent to Retirement. That's renttoretirement.com. This is the largest turnkey real estate provider in the world. So he's a seasoned real estate investor. He's got a huge portfolio of his own rental properties across multiple markets, and he helps people to invest in single family rentals, mostly in small multifamily, out of market in a turnkey way, right? So if you're looking to jump into real estate, but you want somebody that's a seasoned pro walking alongside you, Rent to Retirement might be the way to go to get into a turnkey single family rental. He's a former optometrist, captain for the U.S. Air Force. He's already retired from his medical career and does real estate full time. So Zach, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Jennings, thanks so much for having me. What an intro. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So we were chatting a little bit before the show, and it sounds like you've got a lot going on, a community of 125,000 people. And what is your passion for this? And how did you get into this where you're helping people get into their first rental? It's super interesting.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try to give you somewhat of the Cliff Notes version of my story, but we're fundamentally passionate about helping people accomplish their goals, just similar to the community that you're building, right? And I think real estate is kind of that avenue that I think is the most predictable way to achieve financial independence and buy some of your time back. That's certainly the path that we followed and will continue to follow the rest of our lives. But yeah, as you mentioned, I have a background in healthcare. So my wife and I are optometrists by education, nothing to do with real estate or business. I was on a scholarship with the Air Force. So after we graduated from optometry school in Oregon, I went in to practice optometry full-time with the Air Force. I was there for 7 years. I started investing in real estate when I was a young captain in the Air Force. I mean, the first property I bought was a duplex, used a VA loan, house hacked it. So rented out half, lived in the other half. And this was about 15 years ago at this point. One thing I tell people, Jennings, is that from that first duplex, every single year, we've bought more and more real estate. And we've just stayed true to that, regardless of market cycles, interest rates, whatever the case is. It's been a goal to continually scale over time, because that's really how you buy your time back, right? And create financial independence. After I left the Air Force, we moved out to Colorado, where we opened up private practices and did that for a while. But eventually we were able to replace our active income through the portfolio that we were building. It didn't happen overnight, but it did happen eventually, being able to replace and surpass our income as doctors. And that was really the foundation of Rent to Retirement, because we had a lot of friends and family and colleagues that were saying, hey, we see the success that you're having with real estate. We see what you're doing. Like, can we invest with you, or can you teach us how to do this? We don't have the time, the energy. We don't want to spend a decade building these teams in these areas. And so that was really where we jumped into the turnkey space, is just helping some colleagues invest alongside of us. Fast forward about 10 years later, and here we are where we're doing about 1,000 deals a year, at least last year we did. And this is across 11 different markets, where we assist people in buying turnkey investment properties where they get the financial benefits of real estate ownership, but you don't necessarily need to go and build your own team from the ground up. And so, that's kind of the shortest version I can give you.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you said your wife is an optometrist as well, right?
Both by the education. Yeah. Neither of us practice actively anymore. We mainly practice in a volunteer setting. But
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you spent a lot of time and effort getting that degree. It seems like from the outside looking, it's probably a decently paid job. What gave you the impetus to make a change? Because I see a lot of people that they're kind of too comfortable. They got a job, they're making six figures plus, and yeah, they would like to do that, but they kind of are always too busy to really dedicate the time and effort to make that happen. So what was that like? I guess crucible where you're like, dude, I don't want to be an optometrist forever. Like, were you not passionate about it, or what was the gist of that?
That's an interesting question that I really don't talk about much at all, Jennings, but because there's a lot of psychological aspect that goes into, to your point, yeah, we spent 8 years of college going to get a professional degree that does pay well and that we are passionate about. spend $500,000 in student loans to get there, right? So that's a hard transition to change, but also kind of just the mental change to go through of it's a big change. I'll say this though. A lot of times people will come now, we have a 20-year reunion coming up or whatever. And we have people that will come back and say, that I've connected with later and say, oh, well, it's good that you found your passion or that you did something different where, because you didn't enjoy what you were doing. And they're putting words in my mouth. And it's like, that's not the case at all. I love helping people see, and I'm very passionate about optometry. That's why we still operate in a volunteer setting. But the reality is it became very apparent that with real estate, you can just exponentially increase, where your lifestyle, right? Your income, your net worth over time. You can buy your time back. It's not time associated where you're only getting paid for your time in the chair seeing patients, right? Like this is what we all, I think, are kind of striving for, is to build some sort of financial independence. We still practice optometry, but it's on our time and our terms in a volunteer setting. So, I mean, it was a mind shift change. And I will say this wasn't like an overnight switch, right? We were investing in real estate for a good 10 years before we fully committed to real estate. And I kind of transitioned down. I went from, 5 days a week to 4, 3, 2, 1, and then eventually, just moved to a volunteer basis. So it took some time, but it didn't happen overnight.
Well, you mentioned psychology. I mean, your identity was wrapped up to some degree in I'm a doctor, I'm an optometrist. I mean, I was a contractor for 15 years. My identity was definitely in that, and everyone that knew me knew Jennings is a contractor. And it was emotionally intense to switch that and tell people, hey, this is what I'm doing now, and my identity changing.
Yeah, it's funny. My mother-in-law, bless her heart, she still almost like disagrees with the fact that we went this route, even though it's like
it worked.
more successful. But it's like the aspect of leaving a safe, secure job. But I mean, sometimes as real estate investors, we're all entrepreneurs, and really taking control of your own business. And sometimes you just got to take that leap of faith, and it really is looking at what's important to you, like your community, taking control of your life, unlocking and unleashing your life. Like you got to choose what's important for you, and you just got to go all in. And that can be a transition over time. Real estate's great because it can start as a side hustle that eventually you grow and, becomes a full-time thing if that's what you want it to do.
And that's how I kind of encourage people to do it. It's like, don't put so much pressure on your dream and goal that, I got to burn the ships. I got to go all in. I got to quit my job and I got to go full time into real estate. Like, it takes time to build the network connections, the portfolio, the cash flow to do this. And it doesn't have to be all at once, right? If you can carve out an hour or two a day, I think that you can build a significant portfolio over the next couple of years, but you got to be able to commit some time to it.
Yeah, it's having that hustle, right? Just that grind. I think a lot of people that we've seen, that we come in contact with and interview that are successful real estate investors, they're out there hustling and eventually making it, a full-time thing over time.
Okay, so walk me through, let's say I call you and I'm like, Zach, I've got whatever. I got the down payment. I want to buy a rental house. I live in California. I can't find anything that fits what I want to buy. I want it to cash flow. I want to get involved in real estate. Where do you walk me through? How do you do that? How do I go from a conversation with you to I've got my own rental home?
Sure. Well, let's start by backing up a little bit and just kind of defining what turnkey is. It's one of these buzzwords that's thrown around a lot and kind of illy defined. So when we talk about turnkey, Jennings, what we refer to with our company, Rent to Retirement, we basically go out and identify markets first, right? We identify markets where there's investment opportunity. And we have a whole system and approach of how we analyze an area. We want to be in areas that have landlord-friendly legislation, low taxes, future population, and economic growth, areas that are in the path of progress, areas that have a diversity of industries. They're just not relying on oil and gas. And then even on a microeconomic scale, we want to be looking at the neighborhoods within these areas where, new jobs and transportation is coming. So we first start on identifying an area where we want to invest, and then we go into that area and build our teams and systems to be able to offer this kind of hands-off passive turnkey product. When we talk about a turnkey property, this is a property that's either newly built or fully renovated. About half of what we do right now is build to rent new construction. Usually it's a single family or small multifamily property. that's leased and professionally managed. So you as the investor can come in and acquire the property without having to, build your own teams and systems from the ground up, and you get the financial benefits of property ownership long term. Turnkey is a great way for people to either get started. Sure, if it's your first property and you just need some hand holding and you want to work with a team that is already established to walk you through that and build your confidence and track record, fantastic. That's a great way to start. Or if it's your first property out of state, if your local market is too expensive to find cash flow, then this would be a great way to start out of state. We know successful investors are likely diversified across multiple investments in locations, but it also is a great way for people to scale and diversify. Even if you're an active investor, we have a lot of people that are professional flippers, or they're investing in large projects, multifamily projects, whatever the case is. And they'll just come and buy, 10 new builds with us to run cost segregation studies on and offset their taxes because they simply just need an easy way to buy more properties. So it really depends on what the niche is for you and how you see this fitting into your goals. But to your initial question, essentially, if this is something you're interested in, the first thing you do is you schedule a consultation with our team. There's obviously no cost for that. We'll go through and talk about your investment goals, criteria, your resources, your timeline, and map out a strategy and plan for you then to help you identify the markets and locations that might adhere to your goals. And then we walk you through the property identification and purchase process, set up on management. And we also like to take a comprehensive approach where we assist people in okay, because you're building a business here when you're investing in real estate, what is the most appropriate, legal structure and tax structure to have in place for these? So we're not just selling turnkey products, we're helping people build a comprehensive business plan to really make this a lifelong journey.
And are most of these people, are they buying these houses cash or are they using debt? How does that work?
Most people are using leverage, and we maybe less so right now, but most people are using leverage. We highly advise using leverage. I mean, leverage is one of the best ways to really expand your portfolio, and one of the benefits that real estate offers is the ability to use leverage. Plus, there's additional tax benefits and things like that. But the type of leverage is completely up to the investor. Most people, I would say, use conventional. We have plenty of people that are investing through like a self-directed IRA or solo 401k where they use a non-recourse loan. We have people that, maybe they're self-employed and they need non-QM money. We have all those lenders in our network that we make available to you as the investor. And it's completely up to you depending on what your goals look like.
Okay. And so as far as the income side of it, from what I had Adam on the show or I was on Adam's show, and he was explaining that you guys set them up with a property manager, and these are fairly new properties or they've been renovated. And so we're hoping to keep the expense ratios down on maintenance. But in a way, I mean, I own the house, right? I pay the mortgage, I pay the tax, I pay the insurance. I check with the property manager, make sure that they're doing a good job. It isn't like you're the property manager and it's not a hands-off thing. It's like I own the house 100%, but I also have to do some of the work, correct?
This is what I'll say, because we hear the term passive income. It's thrown around a lot in a lot of different categories. And I would challenge to say that there's no such thing as true passive income in any capacity, because you always need to be managing your money or managing your managers, right? But there are different ways where you can set up your real estate portfolio or other investments to be generally passive. And that's having the right people managing that project for you, right? So that's kind of the idea of our system, is where we already have a managerial team that's been thoroughly vetted, and we have a track record established to manage your property. Now, they're going to handle the day-to-day, they're going to collect your rent, they're going to lease the property, manage any maintenance issues, and they're going to send you a monthly report, as well as paying your monthly income to you on a monthly basis, and they'll give you a report of the performance. But you still need to manage your property manager. It doesn't mean you just forget about it for 30 years and then you have a free and clear house. You need to manage your manager. You need to make sure the accounting is appropriate. You will have tenants, right? You're leasing the property and you're the owner, so you need to make decisions at some point, like if you have a tenant that's late on rent or not paying rent. So you need to be engaged, but you're not actively managing your own property. You're having to find and build your own team, right? That takes, as you've been in the contracting world long enough to know that, to find good people out there, it takes time, right? Sometimes to find a good contractor, property manager, you have to go through 10 or 20, and that's expensive and that takes some time. So we're trying to expedite that success for people to have a team that's already established for them. but it is important to, just oversee your investments.
Yeah. And the reason I bring this up, because there's a lot of companies out there that offer turnkey rentals, and a lot of them, I mean, I've heard a lot of bad things about that industry. And so I wanted to sort of make that clarification for the listeners that this isn't you give somebody money and they do everything, right? I mean, there's still going to be roofs that go bad. There's still going to be ACs that go out, and tenants that mess up your place that your property manager has to evict. You may have to inject more capital, right, to get the property back up to being lease worthy. And so it's not something like you're putting money in a stock and you're never going to have to put money in that again. You're still owning real estate, and I think that the way you've set it up is a lot better, because you're not making these promises to people like, hey, we're going to handle everything. Everything's going to be perfect. We do all the in-house management. We're going to place perfect tenants. Nothing's ever going to go wrong. And you're just going to collect a check every month. I think that's where people go wrong with thinking that they're getting into turnkey rentals and they're not really getting into a business.
You said it perfectly when you said you're still investing in real estate. You're still owning real estate, right? There are all the same risks that you would encounter with any avenue of purchasing real estate. This is just, where there's an established system in place with professionals that have been successful for many years to help guide you along the way and have identified, the best locations to invest in. So yeah, you're still owning real estate and you still will have tenant issues. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? So it's part of the game, and you got to know that.
Okay, so my next kind of question would be, this sounds great, right? I can connect with Zach. He's going to help me identify a market. He's going to tell me this is a great area. We can cash flow this house. I've got the contractors. We've already renovated this house. We've got the property manager. This fits your metrics. We can help you with the lending. Why are you doing this, and how do you get paid? Why would I not go with you instead of just buying my own thing on my own? I mean, it seems like it's amazing, but I'm sure that there is a cost to that. So how does that work? Why are you guys doing this, and how do you get compensated?
And this goes back to I think the question about, or the statement that we were talking about like if this fits into your goals, right? Like this is a niche in real estate investing. This is an easy way to expand your portfolio, to get started, to scale quicker, regardless if you're an active investor or not. But this isn't the right choice for everyone, right? Could you go out and potentially create a better value add equity position, doing something yourself, taking on a rehab project yourself? Absolutely, you could. And so that's kind of the biggest counter argument I think I would hear about turnkey when it makes sense for someone versus when it doesn't, is if you are trying to be an active investor to, flip houses and do a value add. A lot of your community that is doing the value add on some, small to mid-sized multifamily, like that's great, but you're probably not getting a huge equity position when you're coming into turnkey, because we've already done that work for you, right? Mm-hmm. We've already done the value add, and that's where we get compensated. We don't charge the investor anything because we get paid on the sale of the property. And so we've already taken a house and renovated it, or have that built-in equity through the new construction, where you're probably buying at market value, and it's a long-term hold decision where if the property cash flows and meets your cash flow goals, and this is something that you buy it and hold on to it, and then you let appreciation, debt reduction, tax benefits, depreciation, income over time compound. And that's really where you build wealth, is holding real estate, even if you're an active investor, because we do have a lot of people that are full-time flippers, but that's another job, right? They're earning income that way, and they're actually funneling it and investing with us to get the tax benefits and have an easy way to just dump it somewhere where they don't have their active attention. So, I mean, that's kind of the business model. And I think that's fairly easy to wrap your head around. As far as the why, I mean, we do this because this has been our path, right? I didn't mention this earlier, but the catalyst for us to be able to really expand our portfolio and be able to replace and surpass our active income as optometrists was the point where we started investing across different markets where there's better opportunity. And, it wasn't just investing in our own backyard because that's what we knew and felt comfortable with, because the likelihood that there's a better market out there somewhere else is very great, right? Like real estate's dynamic. And so when we were strategic to start investing and building our teams in different locations, we expedited our goals substantially. And that's what really was the catalyst to get us to where we are. And so I think that's a really important thing to think about. But it just depends if Turnkey and this business model makes sense to you, especially right now. If you're an active investor or a real estate professional and you're trying to take full advantage of cost segregation studies and accelerated depreciation, you could wipe out your taxable income if you buy enough real estate every single year. That's what we do. But you got to be able to buy that real estate, right? And so that's another avenue that we fulfill for people.
Yeah. Okay. So I get it. And just to clarify for the listeners, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, when he's saying equity position, they're not taking an equity position in your house. What he's talking about is the forced appreciation equity. So they identify a house, maybe it's run down, whatever, it's 75 grand. It needs $35,000 worth of repairs. They got the contractors, they got the network, they run the renovations, they get it in tip top shape. Now the cost basis is 115,000, and then they sell it at retail value to you for 140,000. So they're making a profit. You're getting a nicely renovated house with their systems, with their managers. They're helping you place that, but you're paying retail value, and you may not see large equity gains for another 4, 5 to 10 years. And so, I think it helps people to understand, how are you making money? How am I making money? What's the trade-off versus, okay, yeah, you can go find your own beat up house for 75 grand, try to find the contractors, try to manage that, try not to get burnt. But if you're a high income, busy person, you may not want to do that or have the desire or time, or maybe you can't even do it for cheaper, right? It may cost you more than 140 grand if you get ripped off. So I see the value there. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. So yes, you are at 100% the owner of the property. We're just facilitating everything for you. And I will say, on the topic of equity, kind of where the market cycle is right now today, there is actually some really good buying opportunities where, especially this is mainly on the new construction side, but some of our investors are coming into, $20, $40, sometimes $50,000 of immediate equity with new construction specifically. I'm talking about some of our Florida markets where we actually have better buying opportunities right now than we did a year ago, just with where the market is. So it is a unique time where you possibly could come into immediate equity. But generally, what you stated, Jennings, is appropriate.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. But you would say once the deal is done, once the house is sold and the manager's there, you maybe you've even placed the tenant, you guys are pretty much done then, right? It's just me and the property manager, correct?
No, I mean, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's a very important point that I want to hit home with people. We're not just selling real estate and wishing people well. We're helping them build comprehensive business models long term to be a successful business owner. When you're investing in real estate, you are building a business, and there are all sorts of things that you need set in place to be a successful business owner. You need the right LLC structure, entity structure. You need the right tax advice, financing, accounting. I mean, there's all sorts of things. And as you grow your portfolio, things like maybe you max out your conventional loans, you need other lending opportunities. Maybe you want to do things like cost segregation studies when it comes time to do a 1031 and having a qualified intermediary, or doing the self-directed IRA and having that custodian. We take a comprehensive approach to help people put all these pieces in place, because we've built this network through our own success of building our portfolio, and we make that available to our investors to help them strategize on, how do I diversify? No one's coming into this just to buy 1 or 2 houses and be done, right? People are building a portfolio. We want them to be successful, because that means they're going to come back and continue to buy with us. We want to create lifelong partnerships with our investors. And so we do stay engaged. Now, we're not in the day-to-day, the active management, but if you have a problem with your property manager, we can help you solve that, because we have leverage with them, right? And we have a relationship built with them. So we can step in to assist in those regards. But we want to create the relationship where we're helping people continue to scale and learn and grow over time. So we are very much involved long term.
Gotcha. Now, can you walk me through a case study? So maybe where you bought the house, what the investor paid for it, what they rented it for, and like what kind of returns that he or she can expect.
Yeah, we probably, and I don't know if this is audio and video, We probably don't have the ability to do screen share, do we?
I don't think so. It's video, but I don't know that I can allow you to share the screen.
No, it's all good. I'll walk you through an address we just did. So we have a new construction project here that I just pulled up in Northport. Actually, this was a property, if anyone is familiar with who Pace Morby is and his partner, Cody Barton. They invest with us, and we did a new construction project with them in Florida. Well, I won't disclose that address for their anonymity, but I will talk about a very similar property in Northport, Florida. So this is Southwest Florida. This is a brand new construction that is a 4.2. It is about 2,000 square feet under air. This is a property that we sold to an investor at $383,000, and the appraisal came back at $435,000. The way that this process worked is that this investor, we sold this one is about 90 days out to being completed. So the investor put the deposit down and reserved it. 90 days went by, the house was completed. Then he went through normal conventional financing and bought the house. This was part of a 1031 exchange for this client. But the point I want to mention here is kind of what we were talking about previously in equity. This person actually acquired this house less than what it's worth. The appraisal came back over $50,000 above what this person bought it for. And this is a high-end house. This is not like your C-class Midwestern house. This is an A-class, rental property that is a build-to-rent property. It rents out for $2,800 a month. So if you're running the math on that, with even current interest rates, your cash-on-cash return is probably, around 6%, which isn't anything that's super exciting. But in today's market, that's reasonable for a brand new construction property in an A-class area. Once you factor in, additional things like tax benefits and debt pay down and things like that, this is, in double-digit ROI.
So he had to put down, let's just say 75-25. He put down $100,000, and he is expecting, after paying all the expenses, property manager, the taxes, the insurance, the mortgage, he can make about $6,000 a year in cash on cash.
We have, and I'm looking at the pro forma now, it's about $650 annually. So, monthly. So it's closer to $8,000. And this is factoring in future vacancy and maintenance and taxes and insurance and things like this. So on our website at renttoretirement.com, we have a full, all this is public knowledge. We have this property as well as many others available for you to look at, and with a detailed pro forma to actually look at, where these numbers are coming from. So you can visualize that's public information. But yeah, that's kind of the general numbers.
Do you ever go as a new investor, right? Or maybe I'm not super sophisticated. I really got to have a lot of trust in your pro forma there. Do you ever go back and vet that data a year later and say, wow, we really missed on the maintenance, or actually we're pretty tuned in? How do you make those pro formas, and how can I trust those pro formas?
Well, and I would offer that you never trust a pro forma from a seller, right? Ourselves included. This is part of being an investor, is running your own numbers. But it's always important. We buy multi-million-dollar commercial deals that we look at some of those pro formas and offerings, and they're just blatantly wrong. So that's with any property that you buy. So that's part of due diligence, and always we're going through and having appraisals, getting actual quotes on insurance and rent comps and market comps. You need to do that regardless of who you're buying from. Now, for us specifically, yes, we've been in these areas for multiple years. We know we have actual track records to look at with new construction specifically, and we can share all that data with you, right? But again, you need to look back and see, because your actual insurance quote, when you look at a pro forma, do not assume that is just going to be your take home month. If you see $643 a month, that does not mean you expect $643. There is going to be vacancy variance. Rents could vary. Your insurance could vary. Your lending is a big thing right now, right? So your loan structure, you need to go through and actually run those numbers. We've collected those data points. We're happy to share historicals. We have things like, average leasing time is 4 weeks, or, average occupancy time is 2.5 years. We can share that sort of thing. And that's what we are basing the pro forma off of. But it's always important to be a savvy investor and look at that. And I will say with new construction specifically, it is a little bit easier to hone in on numbers because, Like, for example, there's zero maintenance the first year. There's just zero maintenance because there's a comprehensive warranty on everything. And so, but you need to factor in, say, maybe it bumps up to 3 or 4% the second, third, fourth year, things like that.
And so if you're, listening to this, you may think, oh, wow, 6% cash on cash off 100 grand. I could do better than that. Blah. I mean, but you got to remember, you're also amortizing debt. You're also riding the Florida appreciation wave. You also have some built-in equity there. I mean, I'm surprised that it cash flows at all. Honestly, I mean, new construction, Class A in Southwest Florida that can cash flow. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and with interest rates where they're at now, it's just a year ago those numbers were more attractive, but a year ago you probably didn't have the ability to come in with equity. But that is one example, and that is a good point to mention. Is that is a higher end new construction house. We have plenty of stuff in the Midwest and Southeast that would be $150,000 B class renovated house. That's probably between a 12 to 15% cash on cash return, right? So it's a lower price point. You're probably not going to have as much appreciation over time, as you mentioned, Jennings. But I mean, it's all about what fits your goals and what appeals to you. And it's working with our team to identify those. We have both those options available.
Yeah, and you also 2-3 years from now, you may be able to refinance that house at 4.25%, 4.5%. Who knows where these rates are going to go? And all of a sudden, that
Let's hope
cash flow
so.
becomes more attractive. Or with your debt service coverage ratio, you could pull some of your down payment out and redeploy it in another house. So that's pretty interesting that you're able to build new construction in that hot of a market and still make it work. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something that's, like I said, we have a lot of people that will purchase those not based on cash flow. I mean, when we look at cash flow, that's what a lot of, I think, newer investors, it excites them, is the fact that, like, oh, you can kind of reverse engineer this. If I get $300 a month in cash flow and I have 10 properties, I could cover my expenses, things like this. But, I really enjoy investing over time and seeing how real estate has this exponential graph of progression, right? Because rents usually go up, especially in markets like that. Rents go up year after year. And as well as you're building this equity, you can 1031 and just kind of scale this in the future. But I think, no one's trying to retire tomorrow off of a couple of rental properties, right? But you're investing now, you're learning the process, and you're building a business that is scalable over time. Real estate investing is a lifelong journey, in my opinion,
Well,
and a way to create financial independence, but also generational wealth long term.
and you got to go in there eyes wide open too, because you're talking $6,000-7,000 in surplus cash flow. I mean, hey, we had a crappy renter. We got to repaint the house. He was smoking in there. Whatever. Like, one thing can wipe out a whole year's worth of cash flow. And so anybody that's been in real estate anytime, they know the game is appreciation. It's safe. You got to cover your costs. You got to cash flow. But the cash flow, until you get 5-10 years into it and you don't refinance and you don't increase your leverage, that's where you start to get significant cash flow. But your money is made in the appreciation, at least in my experience.
That, and then I would also say, just being a creative investor on the tax side, like at the point we're at in our investing, I don't care about cash flow anymore, but I do care about, yes, investing in the right areas that will have appreciation. But actually, over the past few years, because of, the 2017 Tax Act and the benefits we have available through that, we've tailored our investing solely around the tax side of investing and buying. Our goal is to reduce our taxable income to zero every single year, which we've done over the past few years, to be able to just have that much more money. Like, if you have 30% of your income that's going to taxes and you can not pay that and then invest with that instead of giving it away to Uncle Sam, like, that's going to expedite your goals so much further. But yes, over time, rents will go up in these areas and you get appreciation. It all compounds over time. And I would also say, this is a game of scalability and economies of scale.
Yeah.
And, to your point, Jennings, you could have one property that you have, a tenant turn that was really bad and it wipes out your cash flow for that year. But if you have 10 or 15, 20 doors, right? I mean, it's all a game of averages, and your portfolio supports itself. And so I think that's a goal.
For sure. For sure. Now, walk me through quickly one of this like a C class or B class Midwest kind of deal. How does that look? And then we probably are gotta wrap, but I'd like to hear a little bit of numbers on like a more B-class renovated deal.
Perfect. Okay, so let me pull up one here that's actually live. Again, our inventory is live, available on our website at any point in time for someone to see.
Cool. And that's renttoretirement.com.
Correct. Thank you. And it's renttoretirement.com. So I'll pull up one. This is 902 Redfern Avenue in Akron, Ohio. This is a suburb of like Barberton or the Cleveland area. This is a 4-2 that was built in 1912. So it's an older house, but it's been fully gut renovated. It's actually not completed yet in the renovation stage, but it's about 2 weeks out. Probably about a $60,000 rehab on this. So it's pretty extensive down to the studs on this. And of course, getting a scope of work and inspections and things like this will show you this. This property is for sale for $140,000 and it rents for $1,250. It's a 1,600 square foot 4-2. And so this one, and yeah, just looking at the scope of work, is pretty extensive. It's all new mechanicals. We have a standard where if like the roof or HVAC or hot water tank or things like this are not, they don't older than 5 years, we just fully replace them. But this one would offer a 12% cash on cash return, assuming you're using a 30-year conventional mortgage. So you're cash flowing about, just under $400 a month on this one. And you're putting down, let's see, with closing costs, you're probably putting down about $37,000 with down payment. We actually are calculating this at a 25% down payment. You don't have to do that, but that's just a little snapshot.
No, but how can I get a 30-year AM on a rental property?
So these are your conventional, what we're quoting here is conventional mortgages, your Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac products, which are, 4 units and under. You can have 10 of those loans under your own name at any given point in time. If you have a spouse that's doing, their own lending and you're doing your own, you could have 20 in theory. But this is a conventional loan where it's a fixed 30-year mortgage.
Okay. So just like your primary residence, you can get the same amortization schedule on that.
Correct. And you don't have to use that type of loan. We don't care. It's not up to us to determine what kind of leverage you use. But I would say most people are using those loans. Or if you want to buy through, like I said, a self-directed IRA or, another avenue, all those lending options are available as well. And we have plenty of resources for you.
Yeah, I actually just bought a 34 unit in Barberton, Ohio last year, about 7-8 months ago. So
there was, we just saw this report that came out is about 2 weeks ago, like the top, because it's a decent area. It's kind of this, what we're doing a lot is investing in what we would call secondary markets, where it's not your really heavy populated metropolitan area, but it's within an hour radius of that. Some of these suburbs or smaller communities where we're seeing quite a bit of growth. But Barberton, there's just a report that came out that said there's like the top 10 recession-proof markets in the U.S. and Barberton was like number 5 or 6 on there. So,
oh, good. Well, that's great for me. I'm glad. I didn't know that, but that's good.
Man.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, the metrics really made sense. They had new parking lots, new roofs, vinyl siding 3 sides, and fresh paint on the front. It was full, and our analysis showed market rents could be $750 to $800, and our cost basis was like $40K a door. So it made a lot of sense for that deal.
All day long. I love it.
Yeah. So cool. Well, Zach, hey man, I appreciate it a lot. This has been a super informative show. So if you're out there and you want to get your feet wet in real estate, you're looking for a single family deal, you want to save on some taxes, place some cash, this might be something to check out. Head over to renttoretirement.com, talk with Zach and his team, and see if this is the way to go. I mean, it seems like this is a good model for some people that are looking to scale their single family and have a built-in network and sort of a partner to analyze the area and get a product that not going to be, a nightmare of repairs after repairs. It's like a fairly new or fully renovated product. So this is great. It's a really cool business model, and I enjoyed the show a lot, Zach.
Hey, Jennings, thanks for having us on. We really enjoyed having you on our show as well. And I think it's really cool what you're doing, walking people through how to scale their portfolio and create the lifestyle that they they desire. So it's been really great chatting with you.
Awesome, man. Well, to all my listeners out there, thank you for giving me some of your time. It's our most valuable resource. Make sure you spend some time this week to unlock your life. Jennings signing off. Peace.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.